So I have been walking around the community a lot lately, and something that is a concern of the community, actually two things, is so there's a lot of times where state reps have to make a vote and they get up from their seat and are not there to make the vote or are absent. And it's votes on things that are very important to us. And I know that you are away a lot with serving, correct? But I want to know what you're doing to make sure that your votes are being casted on those very important things that we want you to be voting on, because it's very unfortunate for us to see, to hear from you that you may be supporting something or with us in a certain way, and then when it comes time for the vote, for it to be an absent vote or a no vote, and those are things that this community is really, really concerned about. So attendance and actually voting, I want to know in what ways that we can improve that so that we are a voice for us, because if they're not there to vote on stuff that we care about, then it's unfortunately, even though you're doing a good thing, you are at that point not being a voice for us.
You're 100% correct, and I'm glad you brought that up. Have you looked at my voting record?
Yeah, I had just...
Have you noticed that I've been there for practically every vote?
No.
I've missed votes because there are votes that I have to go to a committee, I have to do something, okay? But if you're referring to Kristen's law, when I wasn't there, that was true near and dear to me. And I stuck around for an hour and a half, and unfortunately my wife had an issue that I had to run out, okay? But if you guys don't know, Kristen's law was brought up because Kristen, a young lady from Cranston, overdosed in her car in the middle of the night after rehab and all these different things, all right? That was pretty important to me, and I'm going to share something personal with you. I wanted to be there for that vote. My cousin overdosed August 20th of last year and died. I wanted to be there for that vote. And that's why unfortunately, when I got up and left, it was a last resort thing. And I tried to postpone. But I was there for an hour and a half, and the debate went on for 2 hours. Just on that, okay? So if you guys are questioning why I got up, it was an emergency. But I don't mind taking the tough votes.
I'm not referring to just that one in particular vote, and so in a case like that where it's something that you were passionate about, the community is passionate about, I know that you've said things like you don't use your internet or your Facebook like that, but it's important for us to see transparency and actually know what's going on. So when people don't know why you wasn't there or what happened, it kind of leaves a distaste.
Can you give me an example of the...
I just was looking at an ACLU print newsletter for last month that depicts a lot of the topics that the ACLU has been fighting across the board for a lot of us. And on it, there were some state reps, including yourself, and on the topics that were really important to this community, you were absent or not, or did not vote. And I can't tell you exactly what it is, and I'm not saying that you don't have a reason for not doing that, but as I'm knocking on doors and people are saying, hey, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, I want to know, if I could say, hey, although he was not there to vote, something happened, and this is what his stance is, but I can't do that if you're not transparent.
Well, I mean, I need you to be more specific, because I'm one of the members who spends the most time there. I'm there, the session starts at 4, I'm there at 1 on many occasions, studying, meeting with people.
You get 30 seconds.
Pat called me early on in the session, we met, and there was critical funding that was going to be taken away from a program that she works very hard for, and that at the end of session, we spent a lot of time, and the chairman knew that I was advocating, not just for my constituent, but someone who works in that field, and she can't get her job done unless the money's there, okay? So I'm there, and I spent a lot of time, and we met at what time, And it was a rainy day that day, and I tried very hard to respond. So when it comes to votes, be specific, and I can rest assured, I can tell you why.
So,
I have to actually call time there.
Sure.
And just Jonathan, did you want to maybe address her issue?
Like you said, one of the most fundamental things is being there. I can't speak for Carlos. I can't. I'm not gonna try to use that or anything like that because I don't know. He might have good reasons, and I'll allow him to explain himself in that regard. Being there is very important, and I mean, I haven't been up there yet, so I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure if you know the vote's coming up for something and you're in a committee meeting and the vote's coming up in 2 minutes, you could be like, excuse me, I need to excuse myself from this meeting, I need to go vote, it takes 2 minutes, come back. So there are ways of getting the things done that you want to do. It's about prioritizing. You don't have to be at a committee meeting the whole time. There's no state statute that says you must be present. Actually, there's a problem with people disappearing where there's ghost quorums, people leaving, and there isn't actually a quorum. So you can't leave committee meetings to go take votes. What I can say is that I'll try to read every piece of legislation. I won't vote on the legislation if I don't understand it, and you can believe that that's probably not going to happen very often because I'm going to try to understand every single bill, what it's intended to do, and what the possible unintended consequences of that may be. And that's all I can say in regards to that, unless you have something more to ask for.
All right. So we got maybe just under 10 minutes left. I know there were several counterpoints you guys wanted to make and you wanted to get to. I'll see maybe we give you guys each 3 minutes each just to kind of address stuff that you wanted to. Does anybody have a preference to who goes first, or we can just flip a coin? All right. You want to call it?
I called it before.
Oh, okay.
Heads.
It's heads.
When you brought up money isn't everything, and you were like, you say that the money is just going to appear. I remember 2 years ago on election day, I was talking to a board about my plan of lowering the vehicle excise tax. I was having a good conversation, and you interrupted that conversation, and I was so dumbstruck by why you would do that. And you said, how are you going to find the money? How are you going to find the money? How are you going to find the $250 million? The General Assembly found it. So if... Yeah, but it's doing it. And I wasn't calling for an abolishment of the excise tax. I was calling for reforms and lowering standards. People don't mind paying their taxes as long as they think it's fair. And that excise tax had problems because from different municipalities, they use different books to evaluate the value of the car. It was subjective. It needs to be reformed. And now that's $250 million, that's a hole, like you said. Like, where are we going to find that money? Where are we going to make up for that money? Reducing the tax and finding a way to make it fair and transparent for everyone would probably have been better than just completely removing it, because it's been removed before, and when the state is in a tough place, it brings it back. That's history. It brings it back. Another thing, you said campaign finance money. I would not use my own campaign finance money to go on these trips. I looked at your campaign finance records. You have paid for trips out using your campaign finance money.
I have.
But that's not what you said.
No, you can answer in your 3 minutes. You've got your 3 minutes, and then you can call us.
Yeah. So those were the two issues we kind of asked some questions on, and I think I said my
We
piece.
can go back. We'll go back. I'd love to respond. So in regards to the car tax, okay, everybody was talking about it. The thing is that we didn't know how we were going to get there. And we couldn't just raise taxes at the state level. It would be counterproductive. So we had to find a way, and it took some time. Because the last time it was proposed, yes, it was almost fully implemented, almost where you guys weren't paying, and then the market crashed. So the governor couldn't make the payments, and they took all the state aid away from the cities, and then they gave the cities the right to raise the tax to whatever they could, property and vehicles, so they can collect the money to pay the local bills. So that's how that happened. But the idea is that even if it was to come back one day, why not get relief in the meantime? You guys work hard for your money, or you've worked hard for your money, and if you're on a fixed income, you already paid for that up front. So in regards to that, absolutely. We worked hard. I apologize, I don't remember the conversation, but I do remember that That was a very important issue back then. In regards to trips, forgive me for trying to be a better legislator, okay? These trips that I take are conferences and boot camps to understand different things, okay? I am not a healthcare professional. I am not an economist. I'm not a green economy professional. I am none of that. What I am is I thirst for the information to come back and deliver, whether it's on a local level or at the state level. That's what I do. These trips are not vacations. I go and I meet with individuals, I build relationships, and there are things that we can do because of the people we meet. So I know, and I've known this all along, and I think the councilman could attest to this, and anybody who works in anybody, or if you have a job, you can be king, and you still have to depend on others. You can be the president and have 435 people change what you just did. You can be the governor and 113 people override what you did. So I know I can't go up there and simply do legislation and get it passed because I put it in. I know I have to work with others, and others will only work with me if I work with them. Others will only work with me if I show them the respect that they deserve throughout that time. And that doesn't happen overnight. Okay, so I believe that I've done a pretty good job thus far, and I've worked my tail off, and I've worked extremely hard. Okay, so keep looking at my campaign finance report, because you're going to see me trying to be better. Absolutely.
30 seconds.
So what I'll keep doing is, does anybody have another question?
Licenses for undocumented residents, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
I think we're going to have to probably cut it off over here. We're coming right up against the 8 o'clock.
Sanctuary cities was going out
Pat
that
said
one.
she wanted to.
That's a federal issue.
Did you want to turn it over to you, or should we just?
No, thanks everybody for coming. Thank you for donating to the Unity Project. I think that it's really generous of you to drop some.
I think Melissa's question was too far.
One more question. I'm so sorry. So also in walking around, and this actually, I was just live, and one of the residents in Pawtucket wanted me to bring this question up. So I believe that recently houses in Pawtucket have been appraised, and a lot of people's property tax have gone up. And so I have a lot of elderly retired homeowners whose mortgages have become out, something that they are unaffordable right now, and families who had to go back into the city and get this company that has appraised the houses to reappraise the houses around them so that the tax is actually where it's supposed to be and not in their pockets like it has. And I know that property taxes is a concern for people across the board, but I really am concerned about elderly folks whose mortgage just really went up and then could possibly be losing their homes. Do you guys have anything, any idea or vision on what we can do to help these people? Because it really is a problem.
Yeah, just said something quick and then we can wrap it up.
In regards to that, there are programs at Rhode Island Housing. If they're in threat of losing their home, BIFCAP, Rhode Island Housing. There are things that in the tax money that's generated by the city is a city situation. The only other thing that we can do is figure out ways that as our economy continues to grow or rebound, then we can, give the city a little more aid to offset that cost. But, the state can't tell a city what to do, because at the end of the day, the city has to figure out how to pay its own bills. So when Vision Strategies, I believe, is the company that the city uses, I believe, when they come in, they're usually doing drive-bys, and they're giving a somewhat of a drive-by appraisal. They don't know what the house looks like inside. And so therefore, they give an approximate value based on the comparables in the area. But they have a process to appeal that. And maybe we could create an office or help, or maybe extend something where the city helps the elderly how to navigate that, because it is complicated. But that's something that maybe, again, we can use our voice to amplify the conversation, but it's not really a whole lot that we can do at a state level.
Good. Call that for right now. Jonathan, I'll give you a quick minute to address our
Certainly,
question.
so I've noticed that too, and that also, there's a lot of parallels to the car excise tax where it's who decides what the value is and is it a fair process, and I think there needs to be ways of finding and making sure that these companies are doing what they're supposed to. Because if you're not paying your fair taxes based on the evaluations, you feel like you're getting ripped off, and when people feel like they're getting ripped off, they tend to poo-poo taxes, when taxes are the lifeblood of government to some part. So it goes back to proper oversight of it and regulating the way the things are done so that people know where their money's going and how the process is done and ways of appealing those processes.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I think that's about all we have right now. I think we're about out of time. I certainly don't want to get Patty, in fact, in trouble with the church, for sure. So, I mean, if anybody has any other questions, maybe we can catch one of the guys outside or something, but
I'll be outside.
just want to thank everybody for coming and taking part. It's really important we keep doing this.